Hello everybody and welcome back to another Sai Knows the Score video, where today we'll be kicking on with the Premier League Game Week 5 predictions. And for all of those that are subscribed or haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and I appreciate all of you that have so far. Please drop a like on the video and comment your predictions below. As you'll know from our previous videos, I will try and respond to them all, giving some some different thoughts, and I do really like to see the thoughts and opinions of other people too, to see if it can maybe change my thoughts and opinions. So yeah, please drop a comment below too. And yeah, let's get straight into it, where to kick off game week 5 we do have the Merseyside derby in Liverpool versus Everton. So Liverpool still not looking overly convincing, did struggle to break down Burnley's low block. Doubt Everton will sit back as much as Burnley, especially given it's a derby day. I mean, look, it is at Anfield, so look, Everton aren't going to be going all out for possession, aren't they? You're not going to be seeing having 50-60%, but maybe near about the 40% mark is probably more realistic for them here. Look, it's going to be a fiery atmosphere, isn't it? Everton looking decent so far. Will be disappointed not to have beaten Villa after a fairly dominant display, but both Beto and Keane missing 2 good chances each in that match. So for me, I think Everton probably should have won the game at least by 3 goals. Liverpool, look, I fully expect hrvizak to be on the bench here. Maybe Salah's season has kicked off now after scoring a penalty, get him on the score sheet. Didn't do a whole lot, did he, against Burnley? He would have been one of the players that I would have taken off, to be honest with you. He just didn't look like he was going to do anything there. And you're never overly convinced with Salah. I mean, he's got 85% penalty success, hasn't he? So he's not always guaranteed he's going to score a penalty, but Hannibal given them the victory there to keep their 100% success of winning so far this season. It's really difficult. I'm torn between a 1-0 and a 2-1. I feel like it will be a little bit more gung-ho between both teams, so I'm going to be generous and go with a 3-goal Merseyside derby game. I'm going to go 2 goals to Liverpool and 1 goal to Everton. Brighton versus Spurs. Now, this is the type of game Spurs may thrive on a little bit, counter-attacking against a good team on the ball in Brighton. Usually, styles make fights, don't they? And this is one of them where Spurs, you can see them potentially getting something here. With them having the Champions League, this does need to be taken into consideration because the squad depth isn't the same as, let's say, Liverpool, Arsenal, and maybe even a Man City. So this does need to be factored in, albeit the Champions League game is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so travel-wise it shouldn't be too much. It shouldn't be too impactful. I think there could be a few goals in this one, as I do think a lot of time at Brighton there's going to be a few goals. I think this, again, styles make fights here. I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to go 2 goals to Brighton, also 2 goals to Spurs. Burnley versus Nottingham Forest. So Burnley will be disappointed, won't they, not to get a draw against Liverpool. As we've already established there, Hannibal gave away a needless penalty. He knew straight away, didn't he? And yeah, it was obviously a definite penalty. Like, it's still unknown as well from a Forest perspective what to expect from themselves with Ange there at the helm now. It feels like it's too soon for him to change the style of play, going from the counter-attacking approach where they were only 3rd last season in the Premier League for possession to go to a more possession-based type of team. I mean, Forest, when under Nuno, always struggled against teams when they mostly had the ball and had the majority of the possession, which is what you're going to probably expect to see here, because Burnley, as you would expect for most games this season, and even in the Championship last season, they're not always a possession-based team, especially when it came to teams in the Championship that were, like Leeds and Sunderland. They would generally go with more of a low block approach. So I fully anticipate Forest to have the majority of the ball here, albeit I don't think Burnley will be pushed back as much against Forest as they were against Liverpool and be looking to exploit any potential gaps. I think this is a type of match where a backward start would be beneficial for Nottingham Forest here. It's a real tough game because, the whole Ange effect's completely changing the style of play for Forest. I think it's a bit too soon. I think they're very fortunate to be playing Burnley, as good as Burnley did against Liverpool. I think it will be a narrow victory for Forest just due to the player quality here. I'm going to go for them to edge it 1-0. West Ham versus Crystal Palace. How much longer does Graham Potter have? It's really tough, isn't it? I mean, he definitely needs a win here. Souček did get a red card in here against Spurs. I mean, they're already losing, but obviously it didn't help, and it just defeated them to try and get back into the game. Palace will be disappointed not to beat Sunderland at home. They did have the better of the play overall. I mean, Yerry Pino did look good, just lacked that finishing product. I think Palace will get some joy here against a struggling West Ham, who are definitely struggling with confidence. I think it will have the knife twisted further in for Potter here. And I'm going to go West Ham to score, but I'm going to go Crystal Palace to score more with a 2-1 victory. Wolves versus Leeds. So Leeds will be extremely disappointed not to draw against Fulham, as am I. Leeds are struggling to score in open play and haven't so far. The only goal they scored is a penalty at home against Everton. Wolves will need to get a win here, but the same can be said for Leeds. But more so Wolves, given that they haven't won a single game yet. Look, this is, for me, a relegation dogfight type match. It's going to be, it has been a tough start fixture-wise for Wolves. Maybe expect them to get something against Everton at the time, where Everton were quite hitting the form early on this season. I think this does have draw written all over it. But if there is a win, then that team will, of course, be delighted. I'm going to go 1-1. I think Leeds may finally get an open play goal against Wolves, who are a little bit iffy at the back. So, look, I think you go down the middle. If both teams draw, I think it's still a disappointing result, but it could be worse if you do lose to the other team in, like I just mentioned, a relegation fight, I would say, between these two teams. Man United versus Chelsea. So, yeah, I think the Manchester derby was a little bit flattering for Manchester City, although Manchester City did deserve to win, with Man United deserving to lose, but I think 3-0 was a bit far-fetched. Chelsea still not hitting the heights yet after a disappointing draw. Champions League away day at Bayern Munich, which could also crush the confidence after my prediction for that game, which you can check out in my Champions League prediction video. Man United, it is a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? I'm going to go stalemate, although I could see a world where Man United could win this. It just seems like they're just not going to perform at the levels that, as every season, people probably expect them to. Right now, I've always gone with Manchester United to get over the line with these types of games, but they've never done it for me yet. So I'm just going to go down the middle with a draw here. I'm going to go 1-1. Fulham versus Brentford. Now, Fulham didn't look overly convincing against Leeds. It all came down to a spectacular header, or spectacular own goal, rather, by Gabby Goodmanson. But hey, let me tell you, when they brought Kevin on their new £35 million signing, he looked very good and pleasing on the eye. Running at players, left foot, right foot, looks to have a good shot on him too. He would be potentially a pick in the future for maybe FPL. Maybe not right now, but considering Fulham's next few fixtures don't look too pleasing on the eye. Brentford, of course, will be happy with the draw against Chelsea. So maybe, and you'd expect them to take some confidence from that. And as Keith Andrews mentioned in his post-match interview, that he isn't a stop when it comes to throw-ins, and it's all trickled down from Champions League, and he's going to be the one to get the long throws back in full motion again for the Premier League. So yeah, have a look at overall. I think it'd be a tight London derby with maybe Kevin making the difference here, even though Fulham were disappointed. Brentford had a good result. Just got that feeling in my bones and in my fingers that Fulham are going to just about get over the line here with a narrow 1-0 victory. Also, Fulham, if you haven't already, if you used the majority of good teams in your last man standing, there you go. That could be one for your last man standing pick for this week. Bournemouth versus Newcastle. So, Bournemouth looking very good, aren't they, so far? Semenyo doing Semenyo things, scoring, assisting, you name it, he's doing it. Newcastle with the first win, but did struggle to create in the second half against Wolves. which frustrating. Well, not frustrating, but a little bit annoying. Let me down for £200. Look, it is what it is. It's just betting. But I had a really good bet on for some players to have shots on targets, and then also for Newcastle to win both halves and have the most corners in both halves, but then just couldn't get that second goal. All of my bets came in within the 55th, 60th minute, and I just needed one more Newcastle goal. I just couldn't do it. They weren't really creating anything. Wolves came out hot in the first half, but just didn't do anything more after the first 10 minutes. So, yeah, look, Newcastle obviously have a tough game at home against Barcelona. Bournemouth, I would say, to win this fairly convincingly, which might surprise a few folk here. I think Newcastle are going to go all out in that Barcelona game. They're going to be a bit tired. Squad depth still lacking a little bit. So, look, I think Semenyo is going to do what he does. He's going to score or assist at least. I'm going to go 3 goals for Bournemouth and 1 goal for Newcastle. Sorry, Newcastle fans. I do really love the club, but I just don't think you're going to win this one with a confident Bournemouth side at the moment. Sunderland versus Aston Villa. So Sunderland will be chuffed with a point at Selhurst Park there, with another clean sheet as well. So, clean sheets are good out there, especially away from home. That's what's going to help them stay up. Aston Villa, on the other hand, just can't seem to get going attack with no goals so far. I think this might finally be the day that they break the duck and get on the scoreboard. I mean, look, the atmosphere, as it will be all season at the Stadium of Light, is going to be electric, so I think that will also definitely boost Sunderland. And as we've seen at the Stadium of Light, they've had a few late goals and late drama, most recently overturning that 1-0 deficit to Brentford, which could have been 2-goal deficit had Sade scored that penalty. I think this could be a tight affair. So I'm going to split this down the middle. I'm going to go for 1 goal for Sunderland and 1 goal for Aston Villa. Bringing us nicely onto Game of the Week in another potentially title-defining charge type of matchup. Arsenal versus Man City. Man City still, finding their confidence out there. May have found it after a Derby Day victory with a 3-0 flattering win, I would say, against Manchester United, but also a comfortable 3-0 win for Arsenal against Forest at home. So, yeah, I mean, how much can you take from the Forest game in particular? It's difficult. I mean, they all had one training session under Big Ange, didn't they? So, yeah, look, once Nuno was sacked, I wasn't overly confident in Forest anyway. But look, Arsenal, aka Set Piece FC, can get goals from anywhere. It's at the Emirates. I think there will be goals here. I think it'll be entertaining. Arsenal are away at Athletic Bilbao. So will travelling cause any issues with them here for this match? It's difficult to say. Man City are at home against Napoli, which is a tough game for themselves, but it is at home, so they won't have the travelling fatigue potentially. Yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to go with a relatively entertaining game with goals. I'm going to go Arsenal to score 2 and Man City to score 2. So there we go, there we have it. That's my Game Week 5 Premier League predictions. Please like, subscribe, and comment below your predictions where I will look at them. I will respond to them, as I always do. I look forward to seeing what you all think. And, of course, with it being Champions League, if you haven't already seen my video on my predictions for those games this week, please check that out as well below or by clicking onto the channel. But until the next one, hope you have a great day, and goodbye for now.